Hey, this is Aaron, and today we're going to do our interior walkthrough in a 2024 Nissan Ariya. I think that's right. Ariya. Pretty sure it's Ariya. Because Ariya would be too much like yeah. It's Ariya. Hopefully. That's what I'm calling it. Ariya. So, anyway. Today's walkthrough, I really wanted to highlight this car because it's Nissan's all electric, of course, but there's some interesting things on the inside, especially the center console. I really like that, and just a couple of other things that they did that make the layout kind of neat and a little bit unique, but not in like a weird way. So it is a little space age in here, but not to the level that a lot of electrics I've seen are. And I'm going to try to do this miking myself to allow me to leave the air conditioning on because it is super hot outside. And the AC in this is pretty decent. Although, I will point out, it took me a couple days to figure out how to turn on the seat coolers. Anyway, let's get to all of that as we walk through and look at all the buttons and switches, what they do, what they're for, etc., etc. And then I want to show you some of those cool things that I found. All right, as usual, sitting in the driver's seat, we'll start with the left door. Over here's your windows and mirrors and stuff. So the door locks are way up here. It's lock and unlock there. And then you have your mirrors here with the fold button right there. The only time I've ever used that is like going through car washes. In this particular car, the default settings are to fold in the mirrors when the doors are locked. So really your need for that is pretty minimal. Here is the windows that you can see they're all automatic, and then your child lock and window lock is right there. Over here you have your seat memory settings and of course the door handle and a physical lock. These, if they look kind of familiar, you'll find these in a handful of Nissan products, mostly cars. So, yeah, some shared legacy. All right, over here you have the first of the vents. The vents in this are good, but not great. But it's mostly the cooling unit. It's mostly the air conditioning and so on itself, not necessarily the size of the vents. Down here you have a bunch of buttons. So here's your dimmer over here. This is your steering assist thing. I forget, what does Nissan call it? It's like Pro Pilot right here. Here you have your head-up information. So this has a head-up screen. This is the information for that. You can also push this, and then it allows you to use the buttons on the steering wheel to move it up and down, that kind of stuff. Here is your automatic hill hold, aka launch control. This turns off the timer on a charge. So being an electric car, you can set it up so that it charges at certain times of day. So if you have cheaper power, say overnight or something like that, you can plug it in at home at any time, but it won't actually start charging until that time that you've set. This overrides that, so if you're like at a public charger or something like that. And then this opens the rear hatch. Down there, you can probably just see it, is the front hood latch. Really nothing to see under that front hood, but I'll show you some pictures if I get them. I haven't actually taken photos of this car yet. Okay, steering wheel. It's going to be hard to get the whole thing in one shot, so I'll kind of concentrate, but I want to point out a couple of things. First, the left side is mostly your entertainment stuff. Right side is mostly cruise control and such. Up here is a little thing that nannies you, so you can probably see the red lights in the screen because they'll show up on the camera where they won't show up in your eyeballs. This is basically what's watching you to make sure you're watching the road and that kind of stuff. So I experimented with a little bit, turned my head to one side, that kind of thing. And after a couple of seconds of not looking straight forward, it will beep at you and say something. Same when you're on the highway, and so on. So yeah, it's a safety thing. Part of the, it's a de facto requirement when you have pretty close to self-driving setup like this does. So that's the ProPilot button there. That's why I point at it. Anyway, before I look at the buttons and switches, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and we're gonna look at some dongles first. So over here, you have the lights. You can see there, I just turned them to auto. They were on just the dimmers, and then you can turn them off down at the bottom, so you can see where that is. Here's your fog lamps right here, and then of course your brights are back and forth, and you go up and down for your signal turns, the order you should be using them in. Over here is windshield washers and such, so you can see the windshield wipers down here. You move it up and down to decide what setting you want, and then this toggles. There's a thing on both ends. This toggles how aggressive they are, and then you pull it towards you to squirt the front, and I believe that's it. Oh wait, here's the rear one right here. Okay, and then you push it back for the rear. Most of that is eliminated, by the way, if you use that. So this particular one is equipped with that rear camera thing, so you can toggle between, there's the mirror, there's the camera. I prefer the camera on most of the vehicles that have that, simply because it's just clearer and you don't have to worry about dirt on the back window or anything. Now, steering wheel. I promised steering wheel first. See, started getting caught in the cadence. Okay, left side. So entertainment stuff almost entirely. You see you have your menu stuff here, you have a back button, volume is up here, tracks right here, and this brings up a menu. So when you do this, it's actually the driver information screen. These are actually the driver information screen, as is this. So this is entertainment, this is driver information stuff. I'll show you what those driver information screens look like when we look at the instrument cluster, but for now, this is what I'll be using to control those. Over here, mostly, actually pretty much all cruise control except for the phone part and alright, so it's not all cruise control. This is the ProPilot system, which is Nissan's partial self-driving setup. It's used on the highway, basically. I've talked about it before, and I did a full write-up of how the technology works, and full testing where I let it stop and do all kinds of stuff. I basically was a 100% unresponsive driver on a highway to see what would happen. And it's a pretty cool system, very, very safe, and very smartly done. So, yeah. Anyway, over here you have a couple of buttons. This is a dead button in this particular model. I believe if you don't have this, then what you would have here is probably just your radar cruise. Then you have your set, reset, and so on right here. You cancel by pushing in the middle. This is your lane change. So you can do it by either running a turn signal. So you push this down, it makes a left turn signal for a few seconds, right? Or you can push this button and then it will make that lane change. It's pretty cool. So if you do it with this, then you manually make the lane change. If you push this button, the car will do it. Pretty neat setup, useful and new to this system here. Down here you have your voice activation, which is okay, but it's still just the usual prompt response. This is your phone button. Use this up and down to set and reset. I don't think I was clear on that. So you push this up and pull it down. This is a totally separate button. And then down here is your distance for your adaptive cruise. So how far do you want to be following? Pretty nice setup, easy to get used to, and these are not terribly bumpable buttons. They're nice and smooth. So you can tactily feel them and know what you're on when you're doing stuff, but you won't just scrape your hand across it and suddenly change a bunch of things, which I have felt in other cars, including some Nissans, in the now distant past. We're talking 8-10 years ago. All right, now let's look at the instrument cluster. I think if I do this, I'll just have to pan across it a little bit. Okay. Over here, you can see this is sort of like a tachometer, speedometer, but really what it is, because this is electric, this is more about where your power is going. So if it goes down into here, you're gaining power. If it goes this way, you're using it. It's also a speedometer. Across there, you can see that. You have a digital speedometer that appears either in the middle or right here, and then you also have that head-up display in this particular one. And then over here you can see some one indicator. There's actually 3 or 4 over here. This is to indicate whether or not the cruise control is on, not active, just on. So the cruise control can be used right now. That's what that means. I cut my finger, now I got a piece of skin hanging off of it. We'll talk about the middle part in a minute. Let's talk about this side first. So over here, I was mistaken. I was saying that there was a speedometer over there. It's actually over here. Anyway, here is another speedometer, but this is not a power meter. It's just how fast are you going. And then your speed is listed digitally right there. And then you have some other emergency indicators coming around, including, I have this cut on my finger and I feel like it's distracting, but whatever. Including the one right there that says, you know, I don't have my seatbelt on, being as I'm parked. Down in the corner, you can see the total miles on the vehicle, and then you can see a little tiny Canuck miles per hour little indicator there. Now, and over here, outside temperature there, and your gearing is right here. This can change a little bit. This changes a lot. Up here on the top is your fuel, your battery indicator. So you can see I'm at 36%. That gives me 95 miles of estimated range. According to the driving habits the car has recorded so far. I did do a reset on this when I got it, so those should be all me right there. But anyway, that's what that is up there. I'm due for a charge tonight, so I'm gonna have to plug it in today or tonight. Now down here, this is the driver information screen. If I push the buttons on the left side of the wheel that I was showing you before, you can see the menus, and then I can page through them with that little wheel, and I can pick what I want and change stuff. So this right here, kind of a neat looking screen, right? So this is just the view of what is on your meters, right? What's in your blind spots, your radar stuff, all of that good stuff. So it's not what you would expect. When I first saw, whoops, I'm back to the menus. When I first saw change meter view, I was thinking it was like the charge state and some other stuff, but it's actually what I just showed you. Then you go into those menus, you can see some other stuff, driver assistance stuff. You can toggle or set sensitivities for stuff in there, and then you can personalize the display. So pretty neat. I really like this because it's so simple. It's just straightforward simple. If you, like right now, it's defaulting to showing me what's going on in the audio, and that's because of where I'm at on this menu, right? So if I go back, and where's the exit? There we go. So you can see I'm fiddling with basically what do I want to do with the audio and so on. And then I can go and I can change this and say I want to see this, right? So now with the audio off, if I turn on navigation will replace this and the audio will go away. You can turn that on and off as you want, but that's how it defaults from what I've seen. Over here, let me see if I can get the right, there we go. Over here on this side, you can see dimmer switches and a camera view. So you can push that and get camera views, and then you have your main menus for your infotainment. Infotainment in this is surprisingly simple, but not dumb. Surprisingly simple, but not dumb. I feel like that's how I've been described. So it's very capable, has a lot of good stuff in it, but it's very, very simple to use. So this is sort of like the default screen. You can see that there's several dots down here, but the default screen, when you don't have it on audio or something else, is this little map, which is sort of where I'm at. Cheyenne right there, Denver down there. And the energy use in the car. Right now it's doing almost nothing because we're just sitting here. But if I go to the home screen, this is what you look at. So here is a map. Here's what's going on with whatever device is connected. I've disconnected my phone so it doesn't make noises on here. And then the audio source. And then you can see that there are several. So I can page through these and you can see what's going on. Here's the quickest charge option to me, public charge option to me. Here's phones again. Apps if you want to add them. Here's the weather, Nissan Connect services, Alexa. This is Alexa enabled. And then you have the map and the energy usage we were seeing before. And then you can change out users. So this is tied to keys. So if you have several keys, you could have several users in the car. Or you can have several users in one key and then they just have to go in and change it every time. That changes things like your radio settings, stuff like that. So if you have multiple users, then like the remember settings for things like favorite stations, and all that kind of stuff changes according to what user you have selected. So it's kind of a neat little thing. And then this kind of empty screen, which looks a lot like the first screen because it is. There we go. This last one is a screen you can customize. So there's no custom screens right now, so it's skipping it when I'm going through. But you can customize that last one if you have your own setup that you would prefer. And then of course you have things like you can go straight to nav, straight to audio, straight to your phone connection, and climate stuff. So climate stuff is good to know because the physical climate buttons down here do not include bun warmers or anything like that. It's basically the federally mandated minimum is what is showing down here. So you can do temperature control here, defrosts are right there, how much fan, auto setting, recirc, and then the passenger side. Most of your stuff is done in this screen, so you can either push that right there, or when you're on a different screen, you can just push down here where the settings are, and then you can set like the driver's side. So you can see I have this seat cooler on, I turn it on there, and I can set the temp here. Steering wheel heat, seating heat, so on. And then you can do the same on the passenger side, same idea, right? So that's kind of how climate works. I'm not a big fan of this kind of thing. I really like it to have it down here. At least the seat warmers and coolers should be here or on the door, in my mind, because this is just too hard to do on the fly. Nobody thinks to do this when you're parked. Everybody does this while you're driving. You're like, wow, the seat's kind of warm. It's pretty hot outside. It's taking forever for the AC to kick in, blah, blah, blah. I need to turn that. And so you're going to have to look away from the road and push the buttons and do it. And that's not good. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Over here you have a giant volume knob. You have your Dukes lights right there for emergencies. And then you can see you have channel or track skipping right here. So you push it up to go back, push it down to go forward. And you can push this to mute, which is what I've done for it right now. Over here is your engine start, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not really an engine, but you know what I'm saying. And then down here is your parking brake. You'll almost never use that because it's automated. They just have it there in case you need to manually release it or set it, but most of the time this is automated. You put the vehicle in park, parking brake sets, it's automatic. Now down there you can see that is part of the interior heating. That's pretty neat. There's this big empty space right here, and then you get to this console. So on this console you can see you have your drink holders, you have your bougie cover, right, which is really nice, by the way. This is actually something else from my mic. Here's your shifter. Works like every shifter ever. So you can see park is this button, reverse, neutral, and so on. So you just grab this button on the side and shift. And then you have these buttons here. This is for semi-automated parking. This is part of the sort of like, not really drive modes, but it forces electric, right? So it forces electric mode. Drive modes are right here. This opens and closes that thing that I've been annoyed by. See? Now I know what was going on. I pushed that earlier. It's a little bitty storage space that just doesn't seem big enough. There we go. So you have to hold the button. Whoa, I'm discovering stuff on camera like an expert. So opens like that, and you can see it has this cover, right? And you can put things in there. It's actually a really deep space, and I'm wondering, it has these symbols on it that I don't know what they mean, but it doesn't matter. This is pretty dang cool. So you could throw like your phone or anything else you don't want publicly seen in there. You can't just find it in here, which by the way is your key charger and so on. And then you close it right here. Ka-chunk. That is pretty cool. Now another cool thing. So that's one cool thing on that I just pointed out that I didn't even know existed. I just thought this thing was busted. So now we're back to this. This is what I really wanted to show you. This is a cool feature. So if you don't like the position of this or the armrest, you can use these buttons right here to move it. So it slides back a little bit better, right, for some things. And you can get it way, way back. I'm pushing that button and getting it way back. And then that gives you access down here. Down here you have some USB ports, a 12-volt plug, and a spot you can set your phone vertically to store it. So that's pretty cool. And then you can move it again. And now it's going back forward. Really, really cool. I really like this. This is a cool, cool setup. And then, of course, I think I showed you this with the key charger and whatnot. So really neat. I really like this armrest. That's a really cool thing. And now that I've eyeballed this and went, oh yeah, because it should be totally obvious. By the way, if you do have a phone in here charging, this indicator will light up and tell you that. So pretty cool. Now, over here, I want you to just look at the interior, the dash and stuff. The sun's not in the optimal spot, but this is kind of a felt feel right here, and it's stitched across there, and then you can see more vents across here, and then you can see this full leather. It's vented and very, very nice. The seats are actually surprisingly comfortable in this car. I really like the seating. It feels good, and I like the look. So I like the kind of, this one in particular has the blue suede and then the black, so, and then that stuff there. So you kind of have this kind of flow, like that's kind of that electronic stuff that you sort of see down there. And then you got a speaker and just a nicely done vehicle. Going into the back, you can see the back seats. You can sit 3 if you fold that up. And then just a nice back seat experience and a good sized cargo. The cargo is way bigger than it looks. Managed to get all of our Sam's Club shopping for the week in there, no issues at all, including the infamous giant toilet paper thing. So yeah, very big cargo space, more than I would expect. I really like the drive quality of this, and I really like just the feel of this interior. And then those little things that I showed you, including the random discovery I made, are really kind of neat. I really like the layout. I like the setup. There's a tiny bit of space AG, but not a lot of it. And that's a good thing to me. A physical volume knob is a big deal to me. I can live without the climate control extras that I prefer to have, but I cannot live in a vehicle that does not have a volume knob. I don't want buttons. I want a knob. I want to be able to just reach over and crank it. I listen to loud music, and when a really good song comes on, I want to crank it and feel my eardrums vibrate. That's how it is. So I don't want to be going, it doesn't have the same feeling as just going, right? All right. Anyway, that's the interior of the 2024 Nissan Ariya. I really, really liked this car. I've liked it this week. I've really enjoyed it. Not my favorite electric car so far, but definitely up there. I think they're sort of positioning this to replace the Leaf because the Leaf sales have been just slowly declining, and this may be the replacement for it. And that's too bad because this is not way more, but it is a lot more expensive than the Leaf. The Leaf was always a low-end budget, and this is not a budget vehicle. But still, very, very good car, nicely shaped, and just nicely done. So there you go. That's the interior 2024 Nissan Ariya. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.